Okay. How was your weekend?
It was very, it was good. Thank you. I was actually, I visited my mom for a
Oh,
couple of
nice.
days, and it was very nice. We have beautiful, like late spring, early summer weather here in Denmark right now. So the temperatures are high. There's a lot of sun, and yeah, I get to enjoy that a little bit. That was good. It's
Yeah.
busy days at the moment, so when I get the chance to come out, and my mom lives out in the like a rural area with beautiful landscapes, and so that was very good. How about you?
I was sick. I was
Oh,
sick during the weekend, but it was good because I'm also like you, I think like very busy in my life. So sometimes my body just, you need to stay in bed. So that's what
yes.
happened to me. So now I come to you, I'm like, I'm so relaxed. I slept so much. I just
Good.
my throat and like I have a little cold. So maybe I'll need to, blow my nose or something like that during the session.
Feel free. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I ask you this question everyone asks me when they meet me. How do you pronounce your name? Is it
Yeah.
Soren? Is it Soren? How do you
It's
say it?
very close. If you say it in Danish, it's Søren.
Soren?
But you can say Søren, or Soren, or Soren. There's many ways of saying it's fine.
Okay.
Just choose the one that you feel comfortable
Yeah, I
with.
always say that to everyone because my name is Yael and it's also like
Yael.
very hard to pronounce. So yeah, so
Beautiful. Yael. Is there any meaning behind that name, or
it is a biblical name.
it's a biblical name?
I'm Israeli in my origins.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's a very common Israeli name and it's a woman in the Bible who killed like the bad guy. So it was like,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. A shiro.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, just to introduce you and see that I got like everything because you're doing so much. It was really hard to follow up on everything that you do. So just to make sure I wrote everything down.
Yeah.
So you became internationally popular thanks to your role as Erik in Emily in Paris.
Mm,
But there is so much more to you.
mm,
So you were a singer and a songwriter for two boys bands. Is it
hmm.
C21 or C21? How do you say
C21. Yeah, the first one was C21. Yeah.
C21? And then Lighthouse X,
Yeah.
which was like they were both super successful in Denmark, right? And Lighthouse X, that was super fascinating, was aimed to help people with challenges. Like I've never
Yes, yes,
heard
it
of
was
something
very,
else.
yeah, Lighthouse. It was yeah, Lighthouse 10. The X is a 10, but you can call it Lighthouse
Oh,
X.
okay.
We set out that my vision was very clear, because the first band, the C21 band, was like, I was a teenager when I formed that with the other guys. And we got very successful, not only in Denmark. Actually, we were released in 14 countries, and we have gold records in several of them. So we
Yeah.
traveled and toured, especially in the Southeast Asia region. So very early on, I was gifted with this you know opportunity to live out something that's so passionate and so wonderful. Your creative skills, your hobby, in a way, you get to work with that from a very early age. And obviously, when you get all that level of success, we were signed to one of the major labels, EMI Records, it was called. And obviously, it's a machine. Also, it's a business. So my point being, when I formed Lighthouse 10, it was, I wanted to show that pop music, which is one of my great passions, pop music that has this universal power. It really gets people together. It affects millions, billions. How can we use that force, that life force, that fire in it, to actually make some social changes, not just kind of aim for the top of the charts, and aim for selling a lot of albums or whatever. That's nice, that's important, but how can we use this pop energy to actually get people together in a conversation about life? So Lighthouse 10 was all about using pop for a social transformation.
I read it and I couldn't believe it, because really I think you're the only boys band who ever, or the only band or musician who ever done that. You worked
maybe in that specific concept, maybe so. At least it was special, and it was, and even more, I also had the ambition to show that we as artists are not limited, in terms of distribution and releasing our music. We don't need to get a record deal to get that out. I wanted to show that we could actually find other ways of distributing our music. So I formed a very tight partnership with one of the largest telecommunication companies in Scandinavia, who had this social agenda and social campaign called I'm trying to translate it into English, like let's talk.
Okay.
Let's talk about what's important,
Wow.
So they were actually the investors in this music project, making sure that we actually owned all the masters, we owned the whole artistic property, and at the same time we had this very strong and very well-intended partner that made us get out very quickly and very efficiently. We with their marketing tools and power, we got to meet a very large audience very quickly. So in many ways, Lighthouse 10 was a disruptive project, trying to show new ways of using pop music as a transformative force.
Amazing. And so just to continue the introduction, so Lighthouse 10 also represented Denmark in the Eurovision contest.
Yes.
I have the Soldiers of Love song stuck in my head since I listened to it.
Yes.
You played and starred in 11 movies and one musical. Is that correct?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah.
And one movie was a cult teenage movie. Then the last two ones you also produced and co-directed. We'll talk about them a little later. Yeah. And then you played in a super popular Danish TV show with around 150 episodes. You released a solo album with a very interesting name. Life is simple, but not easy. I will ask you about that later too. And on top of that, you co-founded a company that promotes gardening, which is super interesting. And you garden, and that's amazing. You promote it as a new leisure activity, right? That's clear. And you're an organizational consultant, a life coach, and an astrologer.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Did I miss something?
Maybe you missed something that was that's quite important, that which is my NGO, my non-governmental organizational work. I've been very much engaged in especially causes that help young people, kids who have obstacles, hardships, mental diseases or mental difficulties. I've been engaged in that field ever since I was 21. When C21 we had our run, it gave me a platform, and that platform, I could use that for many things, but I very quickly wanted to use it for social change. How could I embrace, or how could I try to cast light on some of the topics I've been struggling with myself. When I was brought up, I had anxiety and I had OCD actually for almost 13, 14 years, ever since I was 6 years old. And I was kicked out from a private school from first grade.
Oh, wow.
I got a very rocky start. And then I developed anxiety and the OCD and all that. And I was lucky. I had a very, very gifted and competent family who could help me. And I also got counseling from, psychologists and psychiatrists and I was very lucky. Many kids don't have those resources. So when I got that opportunity to actually do something, make a change, I got involved in these courses, and I started out as an ambassador, and then moved my way into the actual industry as a professional. So I started projects, and I worked within several organizations, as a side thing. I also did acting and music, so it was a combination.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
Yeah. I don't know. It's yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, but it's been. I definitely have a very diverse, life. There's a lot of things going on.
There is a lot of things going on, but it's definitely that you are here to be in service.
Yeah.
It came to you from a very young age, this double
Yeah.
Virgo, right?
Yeah.
You are a
Yeah.
double Virgo. So Virgo is all about being in service.
Yeah.
With the Sagittarius rising,
Yeah.
how can I change the story? How can
Yeah.
I make an impact? What's
Yes.
the role of the person in front of the universe? And
Yes.
that's incredible. Wow. So you do so many things. Like my first question was like, when do you sleep?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because what I haven't done is form a family.
Yeah.
I've been actually living on my own since I was 20. For 17 years, I was single. And then I had a relationship for 2 years, and it actually just ended late last year. Luckily, we're very, very close still. She's a soulmate in many ways. So it's been very undramatic, very, very beautiful, actually. But we're not a couple anymore. So for most of my life, I've been living on my own, and obviously that sets, how to say it, it gives you a lot of freedom. It provides you with a lot of time, because you don't have to to take care of kids or a lover, or a partner, or so I've spent that time, I've used on my projects, obviously, but also on my own spiritual practice. I have a it's very important for me to have a lot of silence throughout the day.
Yeah.
I meditate twice a day. I do my yoga every morning. I take out time deliberately to just be silent, basically. And that would be difficult, having that kind of schedule that I have, and have a partner, and maybe have kids. That would be a struggle. And that's actually why I've been very aware and conscious about not wanting a family, because I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I was torn between two purposes that were very important to me. And I knew that, unfortunately, the kids and the family would lose.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be responsible for that. I don't want to put new life into this world not being able to take care of it, or have a partner that I'm not able to, dedicate my time to. So it's out of that. It's from that perspective. I have more time to sleep.
But it's interesting because most of your songs and your roles are about romantic love.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that? Like you say, I don't want a family. I want, the more like the monastic, like not monastic, but, like you want the spiritual, you want for yourself. And I know it because I'm married and I have a 6 years old. I started when I was 40. So,
okay, yeah.
So I'm almost 50 and I have a 6 years old, and I'm torn. I'm constantly torn between my motherhood and what I want to do in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so I totally get it, but like you really are into romantic love. So how does it work? Like, and you talk about like, a lot about the heartbreaks, and you deal a lot with love. So
yeah.
Work.
Yeah, because I don't think I'm a very passionate guy. I have a very, I also have a very I'm very conscious about my sexuality. I love women. I love to flirt. I love to, be in contact with other people on many levels. And I don't see the romance is not limited to a partner or in a romantic relationship as such. I think that's too confined, too traditional to think like that, for me at least. I think love is wherever there's people. I think there's a sexuality wherever there's people, and we can connect and we can communicate. I think my point being, there's so much out there that we, because of traditions and cultural understandings, don't get in touch with, because it's not accepted or it's not the way we do it, or and I just don't feel comfortable in that box. It's not for me. I think there's so much more in life than that, and this is not me criticizing the relationship or marriage or having kids at all. It's good people get kids so we can actually
Yeah.
get on as a species. But no, being romantic, to me, is not about the one and only. It's a mindset. I love and it doesn't have to translate into something sexual, but it can be a look, it can be an energy, it can be a transaction between two people, where you feel that spark and you feel that to give someone, generosity is the most profitable thing in life.
True.
So to give another person a feeling of being loved, being seen as something beautiful, seen as something attractive. And we're not talking about a sexual interaction. It's an energy, it's, why not? why limit that to one person?
Yeah. It's like, it is in Emily in Paris, where you play the role of Erik, who is much younger than Sylvie, your girlfriend. And also, the whole show talks about how, France and I think Europe in general is more open-minded when it comes to romance and sexuality. And I do see some evolution around that in the States. Like, there are much more open relationships. There is more conversation around that and more openness. But in the core, yes, the United States is more, conservative.
Conservative, yeah. And it's whatever works for the individual. I guess it's very important for me, it's important to not I'm not here to convince anybody about my lifestyle, that is the right way to live. No, I think but it is I do have an agenda or a point about being open towards my kind of lifestyle as well, and be curious about it, instead of looking at it as something, like an offspring or something that's astray, something that's not really in balance. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's open up to different kinds of lifestyles and different ways of living our lives. I think that's the most important thing, that we set ourselves free to do that, and we learn from each other. When I look, you talked about the Go Garden project. When we actually spend time in nature, we very, very quickly we learn that nature is extremely diverse. There's so many different things going on just in a single garden. So I think that when we open our eyes to that, and our hearts and our souls to that, we're being teach that life is not about being uniform. It's not a single, thing. It's about embracing the diversity and understanding that it's a play, it's a dance between thousands, millions of colors and ideas and thoughts and feelings. And that's the beauty of it. That's the garden of life. And I think, and it's good to know that there's a lot of positive dialogue and conversations going on about this, but I also do see the other end of that spectrum is also very strong. The being very true to traditions and these core values and the conservative mindset. And we do also need that. We need the conservative mindset. It's not, it's not either or. It's it's a bridge.
Yeah, it's like this mindset of like, this is the only way is wrong. That's
absolutely, yeah.
Is wrong. But we can embrace all. And I think what you bring is very valuable, because there's so many single people out there who feel like, they failed in life in a way. They weren't, and there is an expectation from their families and their surrounding. And you're saying, no, you didn't fail. You just, maybe you can see it as a choice and take this free time that you have instead of, I had a client, she was amazing. And she's like, I chose not to bring kids, but I want to devote my time to the community. And she volunteers, and she's a deaf doula, and she does. And that's a beautiful decision. My rising is Cancer. So I came here to be a mom. That's what I signed for. And my connection with my son is the most beautiful connection I've ever had. And I enjoy teaching him and raising him as a confident, nourished human being. I think I was not raised this way. So I feel like, raising kids that are, who are confident and nourished and loved and can contribute to the world and to teach him the values of being in service for community from a very early age, he can grow up and be someone who does.
That's very beautiful. It's so important. We need that kind of parenthood. We need people like you, mothers and fathers who set new standards, who teach every one of us how to take care of our kids. And it's so important what you do there. And I did have a quick look at your chart, and what I did saw when you just mentioned your upbringing, you have, as I remember, make. I don't know if you work with that. No?
Make, what is that?
Make was discovered, I think, in 2007.
I know it's one of the moons, like it's a dwarf planet.
It's a dwarf planet. Yeah. And you have that, and it's all about Make was the creator god at the Easter Islands. Okay. And it just imagine the Easter Islands, absolutely isolated out in the ocean, the great ocean, far away from anything else. So Make is very much about our sovereignty, but it's also about it's the dialogue, reverberation between loneliness and sovereignty. Okay. And you have that in your first house, which indicates, would I say, it would be one of the indicators of, I would ask you if being you with all that you are, being that spiritual mother that you are, the wisdom of a deep mother, maternal, feminine wisdom coming into life, I with Make in first house could result in an upbringing and a childhood that felt very lonely, very not embraced, isolated from all the rest. Yeah. They didn't understand you, and you looked at them and thought, what the hell?
Exactly. I was raised, I always felt unloved.
Okay, yes.
Also, like my mom, she was a great mom, like, on the paper, she was a stay-at-home mom, but I felt she told me a few times that I was switched in the hospital, that I was not her daughter.
Okay.
And it took me years to understand, to get down to the story and understand that how powerful it was, that I was used to not being loved as I was. And it was because I was very powerful. I was very sexual. She did not know how to contain. She just didn't know. And it took me time and this is what I needed to see in order to be able to be with my power.
Yes. Yes. And that's the gift, right? Because from that sense and that reality of being isolated and not being loved, not being embraced, what we are asked to do very often is to turn inwards and actually become that safety, that place of belonging, that sense of belonging in ourselves. And that's not an easy thing to do, of course. But if we realize that, it's all about taking back the power, not putting it out to others, for them to decide whether we are this or that. So it can end up being, from loneliness and isolatedness to deeply rooted empowerment and sovereignty.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful arc,
Yeah. Yeah. Our healing is always where our wound is, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about astrology. You say that you started when you were a teenager. How did it happen?
Yeah, well, I started as so many others do. I was very interested in it, and I started out, getting readings from very gifted astrologers, and it just worked. To be very plain and simple, it just had a great impact right away in the way the language and the symbols resonated with me, and gave me insights to, how could I make better choices for myself? How could I free my own life force more and more and become more and more true to my creative inner self? And that was basically me engaging with astrology. That was the way I engaged throughout many years. And then I think it was 5 years ago, it must be about 5 years ago, I felt this inner urge to understand deeper levels of it, because I only had I understood it, but on a superficial level. And I wanted to go deeper, and the timing was right in my life, and I felt that there was now. And then I got the chance to follow this very, very great teacher we have in Denmark. He's really something. And I was on the last, or one of the last classes he has given. So I was very lucky to get on board, and I took that that education there for 2.5, 3 years, and then I'm following a new teacher as well. So, and now I have my own practice, and it's amazing. It's just something that keeps on giving. It's a book that never ends.
Yeah. So you called your practice The Hidden You, Unlock Your Life Force. How?
Yeah.
And you say it's like more spiritual astrology. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things the teacher Klaus Hallberg, which is the Danish teacher, he's very much he deals a lot with the synergy between knowing your basic astrology, knowing all these symbols, and knowing the combination, the houses, the signs, the planets, but without an intuitive approach to it, it will be limited what we can draw out of it. So we have to work with our intuition. We have to work with our spiritual self as well, to connect with a higher energy, or energy as such, to really get past, what astrology is. If you just read the books, you need to make it a personal endeavor. You need to make it a soulful endeavor, not just something that you've studied and now you know how this transit or whatever it is because you've read it. No, you need to kind of internalize it, and you need to be able to connect and communicate from a place of intuition and spirituality. And that opens up a space of conversation with your clients that's, to me, it's not for everyone, but to me, it's so much more fulfilling, so much more rich, you know. And it's also because that's what I love to do. You know, it's just a mirror of what I what I really find pleasure in, enjoy in. I love to be able to have conversations with people that involve their spiritual growth and transformation. So in that way, I also attract clients who want that, and that's just a win-win.
Yeah. And so you mentioned, and you know, we know that through astrology readings, you learn about your strength and your powers, but you also learn about your, how you said, like immaturities or places where you can, challenges and places where you can grow from. Can you tell us about like a certain process that you went through, a growth that you went through by your astrological understanding of yourself, of your chart?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. I think, you know, that what comes to me right now is my Pluto position in my 10th house, and the polarity point in the 4th house. I've always struck. I have Pluto Saturn in a conjunction in the 10th house. So obviously I have something. I have with me from earlier lives. I've worked within the spheres of society. I've been on stage. I've been there. I've had that responsibility, and I have it in some sense again. It's quite familiar to me to be in the spotlight, if you like. But there's also the problem with ambition in the 10th house, and the constant need to perform and create results that are tangible, you know. And that can be in contrast with my own personal psychological
Yeah, you said it right.
Safety, my feeling of safety, 4th house, my feeling of belonging, my feeling of have this container of comfort and trust and safety and all these things. And that's been a very interesting thing for me, because I've been very much engaged in the 10th house activities, you know.
Yeah, you are out there.
Feeling that the way that I could succeed in life and feel comfortable and have a foundation was constantly to use my ambition.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started to understand the polarity, you know, the theory or the ideas, the philosophy about the polarity points with Pluto, and I understood the 4th house in a new, you know, there was cast a new light to it, and I understood, whoa, it's been so depleted, my 4th house. It's been so, I haven't nurtured it. I haven't cared for that, you know. So that's, and I'm not done with that at all, but it's a process. It's a very important thing for me to where the 10th house want to scale up and make it bigger and bigger and bigger and more ambitious and more responsibility. And that's definitely something that I'm drawn to and I'm good at and I love to do. But I also, on the other hand, need to scale down and simplify and create these rooms of intimacy and simplicity and safety and just human touch, you know. Yeah. So that contrast is very interesting to me, to try to balance that, and astrology helps me to keep focused and remember that I'm actually born with that lecture, that task.
Yeah, that conversation between your ambition. And you started very young. So like you started when you were 15 years old. It was actually your Saturn cycle.
Yeah.
right? When you were discovered, you were singing in the lockers room after a baseball game, or what was it?
Yes,
And
yes,
then like
soccer.
yeah, soccer, and a dad of one of the kids heard you, and he was a producer. And so, did you have ambitions? Like it sounded like it just happened to you. Did you want
Yeah,
to become a singer?
I was very ambitious, a very ambitious, youth elite soccer player. So I
Oh,
was playing football on a high level as a youth player. So I thought that I was going to, go after that kind of career within sports, within soccer. And I was very, very ambitious. I've always been very, clear-minded about my goals. Uh, and I've always felt that my surroundings as a child, it was always too small. Everything was just like, why do you settle with this? Why do we need to be able to dream bigger, have bigger visions,
that's a
just, yeah,
victorious rising, right?
absolutely. Yeah, we need to move on. We need to come on. So yeah, so that sense of fire and goals and development and the world is ours, that went from being very focused around my soccer playing and then translated into the music. So when I got the chance to do music, it was like I thought I was home in soccer. And then I stood in front of this microphone for the first time in my life, and I had the headphones on and I started singing. And it was like, these Kairos moments where you just feel the timing is right, everything, you're home. It was
Wow.
crazy. It was like I was not it was really beautiful, and I felt like this is something I need to follow. This is something I need to invest in. And then I had this, obviously I couldn't just let go of my soccer. I loved it a lot, but there was this period of time where trans when I wanted to transit into the music, and then finally I decided to go with that, and it was the right decision. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Wow, I have so many questions to ask you, and obviously we can talk forever, but I want to get to like the topic of what, like attracted me to speak with you is that,
Yeah.
you are such a mindful person. You meditate, you do yoga, you garden, you do like, you're so mindful of everything. And then you are in the entertainment business,
Yeah.
like totally not mindful, very competitive, very harsh. You even like in the last movie that you made, Love Hurts, you
Yeah.
like a peek on behind the scenes and how like actors go through difficulties and have to be manipulative to get to be casted.
Yeah.
So how does it work for you to be in these two worlds?
Yeah. I absolutely get what you mean, but it's important to add that behind the whole business part of the industry is 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 an army of creative, soulful people who didn't find any place for them in the normal society. They couldn't find satisfaction in a normal job. People everything's right as long as you feel it in your heart. So it's not like that. But as a creative outlier, a renegade, a pioneer, someone who's very creative and very artistic, the movie industry, the music industry is a place where you meet people with the same kind of vibe, you know. And on set, even if it's a cameraman or it's the lighting man or it's the sound man engineer or it's your fellow actor, everyone there, it has that spark of creativity and artistic ambition, and very often, not always of course, but very often there's also an alternative, holistic, spiritual undercurrent in these people. So it's in that sense, it's a very warm environment to be in. You meet people who you can actually start a conversation with, who you don't have to translate or explain a lot to get into the essence, you know. That's wonderful. And yes, on the other hand, you have the business aspect. There's too many actors in, you know, compared to how many movies they're made. You know, we're a lot of actors wanting to get some work, and it's hard. It can be very hard out there, and everyone fights to survive in the business. It's not easy for anyone, maybe except for the 1.1 that, you know, they made it, and then they have their struggles, of course, with superstardom and all that. So they don't have it easy either. No one has it easy. Life is simple, not easy.
Not easy. Yeah. Do you still hold this approach?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's and I would say with your chart, you have this Grand Cross. And if we talk a little about of the rays, I don't know if you work with that, but the 7 rays, Alice Bailey, and the theosophy, the whole esoteric way of understanding the rays. Very interesting thing. If you haven't studied that, this is, you know, look it up. It's amazing. It's really interesting stuff. And you have the 4th, you know, the Grand Cross is aligned with the 4th ray, which is called harmony through conflict. So that's a very big theme in your life, I would guess. I think that's and yes, conflicts, and you know, it's a few. It's a cattle. It's a way of speeding up evolution.
Yeah.
And as far
Yeah. My teacher, so I practice esoteric astrology, and my teacher, Deborah Silverman, she studied Alice Bailey. So that's what we practice. And we see challenges as gifts.
Yeah.
I had to be awake in this life.
Yes.
No other way for me. I couldn't sleep through the movie. You know, that's I have Pluto squaring my sun and my moon, you know, it's just like I had to be awake. So that's a gift. And I see most of the people who are super successful, they have the most challenging charts. So it's, you know, it is the means to wake us up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And a creative force that we can actually master. We can actually ride the beast and not the other way around. You know, it's Hercules all over Hercules' work. But yeah, so I actually find it way more difficult and way more disharmonious to work within more traditional lines of work, you know. Because so being in the entertainment industry is, you know, a sense of home, even though it's tough, and it's but what isn't?
Exactly. Like it has its own challenges. And so the people on the cast of Emily in Paris, like did they know you were an astrologer? Were they curious? Like, did they want you to read their charts? Like,
they found out, and then I actually did a little reading for Philippine. We had a fun little session together. She's very, you know, I don't want to, you know, but she's a very spiritual, holistic thinking person herself. She's
it's shown.
It's very wise and has a lot of experience in life. And so we had a very great, and we can, and just in general, we connect very well, and we have a great friendship coming out of this, you know, working together on the series. So of course the astrology part was just, obviously we wanted to play around with that. And there were others as well. There was a lot of interest in that, and that's fantastic, and points to that we are in the time now with kind of a renaissance for astrology. You know, there's a lot of popular attention surrounding that field, so it's just wonderful. It is. How it grows.
It is. So what would you say, like most people who come to you, what do you feel like the major struggle of people is today?
To be true to their inner voice, to have the courage to actually take back their life force, to pull off the mask and step into life in a more pure, honest, true way. So the hidden you, why I also call it the hidden you, is because I really think that many of us are living this hidden life, hidden from what we are actually here to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to help each other get out of that role play, to take off the mask and help support each other, create a room of safety where we can actually say what we feel without being, accused of all sorts of things, or criticized, or all these things. But it's actually safe to be you. And it starts with our own saying yes to what we are, and actually discovering the parts of us that are not given to us by our parents or the society or whatever, but what's truly authentic to us. It starts with that level of self-knowledge. And astrology is a fantastic tool to help people in a very quick and a very efficient way to take giant steps towards that inner knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very powerful. It's like sometimes you go through a session and people tell you, like, I've been working, not that I say that psychotherapy is, like,
yeah.
it's very powerful, but when you see someone's chart, you just you cut through the the noise, and you see through them, and you see them, then you help them see themselves. That's powerful. I wanted to ask you also, so you were born when Mercury retrograded.
Yeah.
How do you and you speak like tons of languages, you're super good in communication. Like, how do you explain that? That is very mysterious to me. How do you explain
Well, I don't speak that many languages. I just fake it when I have to. But well, I guess that well, and I have it in the 29th degree. So it's a very interesting place.
Which
And
means, just for people who don't know, it means that you're very advanced with your Mercury energy, which is like how to communicate and how you think.
Yeah. And to me, retrograde is almost always about going back and reflecting upon what we've seen, what we've gathered of knowledge and insights and information and all these things, and put that into the oven to create new creative ideas of how we can move forward. So retrograde in some astrologers' mind might be a setback. To me, it's very much a creative power tool that we get the chance to fall back into our own essence and get the chance to really look even deeper, to really analyze even deeper, So it's and in Virgo, 29th degree, you have this sense of a surgeon. It's like precision, it needs to be extremely precise. It needs to be very balanced. There's that sweet spot you need to and there's two things to say about that, because it can be extremely powerful, it can be extremely fun to work with in a creative sense, and in a way of really deepening your own knowledge, my own knowledge about things. My curiosity goes very deep, but it's also a perfectionist, signature with the Virgo part of it as well, that you need to get it just right. And you need to, I can be very critical towards myself and my own standards and my expectations. And of course, I can take that out on others as well. And that's obviously in the low octave, it can be destructive and not very constructive in any way. But in a higher octave, it's actually what makes the whole machine go round. That we have that force of purifying, heightening the levels, the standards of how we do things. So it's not criticism without an intention, without a loving intention. It's criticizing because there's room for being better.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
improvement. For
You want
improvement.
to
Yeah.
make the world better, and this is what you're
Yes.
doing. Yeah.
And from that perspective, it's very, very empowering, and it's very, very helpful also for other people to be around. But it can also be quite exhausting because it's never good enough, kind of.
Yeah, this is what you feel, that it's never good enough. Like you're.
Yeah, definitely. And I do feel that other people who I work with and all that has they can it can be exhausting to be around that kind of constant, we need to do better
Yeah.
because we can. It's possible.
Yeah, but this is why, this is what you mentioned, like the fourth house, the like, the more nurturing, motherly energy that brings you home, and you're like, everything is perfect just the way it is,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
holding these two perceptions.
Yeah.
Like we need to see what's wrong in the world, but we also need to see, because if we're caught up with this grumpiness of, like there's so much evil, so much cruelty, like wars and exploitation of people and women, and so many issues going on. And like if you get absorbed in it, you get negative.
You just drown. You just drown.
And then you can't really serve. You can't really do good, because you need to keep the like the perspective. This is, everything is perfect as it is. It stinks.
Yeah.
But it's perfect as it is. And I'm here to make it better.
It's so nothing is born grown up. Nothing is born finished.
Yeah.
And, it's all a process. Yeah.
Exactly. So to finish with, like, your vision. So if you like, because you do so many things, and I know that there is a common thread to everything. Like when you see an utopian world, or the world that you would want to, when you live this world, this life, you end this life and you look back and you say, like, I did it right. The world is a better place. How would this world look like?
Okay. I would start with myself, first of all, the microcosmos of me. And I would look at a life where I treated myself and my body and my cells with love, patience, compassion, respect, that I understood that my temple is my responsibility, and I honored it as a gift from Gaia. I've been very hard on my own body, on my looks and all that, not because I've wandered around and thought I was not, I know that I have I'm a fairly good looking guy, and I have some, it's not like that. I'm not being, but I've been very hard on my body and criticized myself again and again. And I'm starting within the last several years. I've started to have this love affair with my own body, with my cells, hugging myself in the morning, being, genuinely, authentically, thankful and in love with this fucking masterpiece. Not me, not the looks, but the whole creation.
Yeah.
And we can go as high as we go deep with ourselves. So to be able to love other people's masterpiece, we need to start with our own. We need, to have a love affair with our own microcosmos, our own cells, our own life force. And I think Because from that source, you're playing with the universe. You're so many energies that you are aligned with and that you can interact with, because you open up that space within yourself. So I would say it would start there.
Yeah, that's a huge progress, because we are used, and this is, I think, also part of, being an actor, being on the stage, like you're expected to look in a certain way. Your look is very meaningful, but not only to you. Like we all have, I went through this process when I was a child. I was sure that I was fat. And I was like, I was a stick, walking stick. And I was sure it was like my thighs were too fat, and I refused to wear shorts. And I think that was a call from my mom, like, hey mom, I don't feel love. But it went through, and today I just, I'm aging, I'm almost 50, and I'm just, like seeing how capable my body is, just doing yoga and doing all these, these poses, and I'm like, wow, my body is really capable. So stop looking at it from the perspective of how it looks and how it wrinkles, but to see like how capable it is, and how grateful I am to wake up in the morning and being healthy. Not everyone can say that.
And how can we talk about solving the climate, the so-called climate crisis, and all the things that goes on out there, the wars, the conflicts, whatever, when we have the same fucking war going on in ourselves? It is. We've talked about this for millennia. It's not new knowledge, it's not new wisdom, but we haven't learned it yet. And so we need to have these conversations again and again, that it starts with our ability to love our own life force, our own selves, our own soul. And it's very somatic, it's very concrete, it's flesh and blood as well. It's not just an abstract, and when we start to care for that, we can really begin to understand what's going on outside, because it's just a mirror of our own inner conflicts. Amazing. And then the world starts to transform. And to me, I get very how to say, when I look at what all these kinds of conflicts the world is in, people just around me, obviously it's not nice to look at. It's definitely how do you say it? It's difficult. But when you have that level of knowing yourself, going through these wars within yourself, making peace with yourself, you've been giving kind of a key to the outside world as well, because that it's all about our own self-transformative process in life. It's all about that kind of work, and we cannot force it. We cannot push it on to people and force people to do it. It has to come across organically. It has to come across through the crisis, through the conflict, harmony through conflict. So in that sense, the world crisis, just as your own crisis, becomes a process of growth, even though it's fucking difficult and it's painful, but it's still, behind it all, you have that idea and that insight that it's all there to lift us up closer to the light. And then it becomes bearable. It doesn't drown you. It doesn't destroy you because it becomes so dark. No, you see that silver lining there,
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize the thing about going through, because many people that they walk the spiritual path, they pretend to be peaceful, but they're not. They create, like, because they expect themselves to be peaceful, but they're not. They ignore their conflicts. So I love how you really resonate with your conflicts. You really understand them, you work through them, you see the challenge in it, and through going through the pain and going through the conflict, we can find peace, true peace, and then it emanates outside of ourselves and change the world. Wow. What a beautiful vision.
And you know, truth is always liberating, you know, always liberating. And in some way we've told ourselves and taught ourselves that truth is the opposite. It's actually something that causes a lot of problems and we better, you know, sip it. No, it's always liberating. And obviously we have to learn to communicate. You know, the word communication means to be able to, you know, convey your thoughts in a way that others can understand it, you know, to make it, to make other people receive it as you intend. It's very beautiful, really. So we need to practice our communication skills. So truth has to be conveyed in a way that we can, that we invite people in instead of pushing people away. You know, we're back to the diversity conversation, right?
Respecting
exactly. That we actually we are here to be different, not to be alike.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your knowledge and wisdom, and for being willing to be open and to share your truth with me.
Thank you so much for your great questions, and thank you for opening up throughout the talk, you know, with your own experiences. It's you know, I've done a lot of interviews through my career, and I always try to frame it as a conversation, not just an interview. And I love the way you involve yourself in the conversation. It just makes it so much more beautiful and interesting, and you're such a beautiful soul, clearly. So
thank you. You're too. Thank you so much. I'll just turn off the recording. Okay, here.